All right, let's jump right into this explainer by completely shattering the universally held belief right out of the gate. We've all been sold this idea that your hard work and raw intelligence are going to inevitably lead to your success. We're taught to keep our heads down, grind it out, and wait for that golden ticket. But today, we're looking at source material that completely tears up that script. So welcome to the Stealth Architect Playbook.
You think your hard work's going to get you promoted? Well, honestly, it won't. I know, that sounds incredibly harsh, but it's a vital reality check we all need. Look, the days of historical grandstanding or overt, loud manipulation in the workplace, that stuff is totally dead. It's easily detected and easily destroyed. Instead, we're going to unpack 4 modernized, highly adapted laws of power. Think of this as a classified, high-level briefing for your corporate survival. We are actively trading in outdated textbook strategies for modern psychological stealth.
Okay, let's move right into our first operational zone. Part 1. Navigating the competence trap.
So imagine this. You step into a new role, and naturally you want to crush it. You innovate, you grind, you solve those massive problems that have been dragging the team down for months. You think you're proving your worth, right? But here's the catch. Displaying that raw, unfiltered brilliance actually triggers a superior's deepest insecurities. You're waiting for a standing ovation, but inadvertently, you're just making them feel obsolete. And the brutal truth is, a threatened boss is never going to promote you. Actually, scratch that. They won't just ignore you. They will quietly isolate you, extract your data, and eventually replace you as someone mediocre but safe.
This dynamic brilliantly illustrates the fatal friction between the modern corporate innovator and the insecure executive. Just consider the setup here. On one side, there's you, grinding, innovating, and solving. But on the exact opposite side of the desk, your boss is sweating, growing paranoid, and feeling completely obsolete. It's a fundamental mismatch in expectations versus reality. You think you're building a bridge, but they're absolutely convinced you're building a siege engine to take their castle.
So, what's the workaround? Well, true power requires stealth. If you're smarter than your boss, you actually need to play dumb. Pass your best ideas through them. Literally, make them look like the genius who hired you. You aren't submitting, and you're definitely not giving up your ambition. You are simply camouflaging your threat level until you have gathered the leverage necessary to take their seat. Fade into the background and just let them burn out on their own.
Moving right along into our second zone. Part 2, the illusion of loyalty.
We've all heard of the classic startup co-founder dilemma, right? Well, it turns out that the instinct to hire your best friend is actually the absolute fastest way to bankrupt your business and ruin your life. Why? Because friendship introduces the poison of emotional liability into a corporate structure. A friend knows the sanitized, agreeable version of you. Bring them in, and they often become entitled, they resent your authority, and man, when they underperform, firing them becomes a toxic emotional nightmare. On the flip side, there is an untapped gold mine in bringing a defeated market rival, an actual enemy, into your ranks. They operate with terrifying efficiency, mostly because they have everything to prove and they expect absolutely no favors from you.
Here's the bottom line. Your business is a war room. It is not a country club. Hire for competence and weaponize your critics. Friendship clouds your judgment, but power requires absolute clarity. Meaning, a friend might literally stab you in the back out of petty resentment or wanting a promotion, but a former enemy you've given a second chance to, they'll take a bullet for you. So structure your team accordingly and distance yourself from those emotional liabilities.
All right, let's slow it down a bit and shift our focus from internal dynamics to high-stakes external negotiations. Part 3. Weaponizing intellectual vanity.
When walking into external negotiations, amateurs try to absolutely dominate the room. They drop industry jargon, they compulsively correct minor errors, and they take literally every chance they get to show off their expertise. But parading your intelligence like that, it's a massive operational failure. It instantly puts the other side's defensive radar on high alert. You are essentially begging them to put their guards up.
Which brings up a really fascinating question. Why does the desperate need to prove you're smart actually lose you the negotiation? Well, it's simple. No one likes feeling stupider than the next person. The absolute best trick to modern negotiation is to feed the ego of the modern executive by playing dumb. You want to make them feel like they are, without a shadow of a doubt, the smartest person in the room.
This is how you weaponize ignorance. Let them feel like they are totally leading the deal. Because once you've convinced them of their superior intellect, a highly predictable thing happens.
They start talking way too much. They want to show off. And in doing so, they end up revealing their profit margins, their urgent timelines, and their actual leverage before they even realize you've quietly mapped their entire defensive structure. Ask naive questions. Let them correct you. Make them feel totally in control, while you're the one quietly pulling all the strings.
Finally, we arrive at the ultimate existential threat. Part 4. Strategic Corporate Capitulation.
Picture this: a massive competitor steps into your market, or maybe you get hit with a devastating lawsuit from an entity with 10 times your capital. Your immediate gut instinct is to fight back, to protect your honor. But fighting to the death for corporate pride doesn't make you a martyr. It just makes you a casualty. It burns your cash, drains your energy, and practically guarantees your own destruction.
And this is where we find the ultimate architectural defense: strategic capitulation. When you're the weaker force, you literally have to choose surrender over fighting. But hear me out on this. Surrender is not defeat. Surrender gives you the vital time you need to recover. Time to silently torment your conqueror, and time to patiently wait for their power to fade. Think of it like a rigid oak tree that snaps in a violent storm versus a flexible reed that bends flat to the ground and survives perfectly intact.
So how do we actually execute this reverse takeover methodology? It breaks down into 4 steps. 1. You surrender on paper. 2. You let them absorb your infrastructure. 3. You become an embedded asset, quietly draining their resources in the shadows. And 4. You gather your strength to strike from the inside. By turning the other cheek, you absolutely infuriate and unsettle your opponent, all while secretly transforming your weakness into your ultimate power.
There's a quote that perfectly distills everything we've talked about today. It says, "Power requires absolute clarity and stealth. You don't fight, you embed, you camouflage, and you strike from within." This whole philosophy proves that surviving the modern corporate environment relies entirely on cold calculation, not fragile human emotion.
So, as you navigate your own corporate battlefield, whether you're stepping into the office or logging onto your next remote meeting, I really want you to ask yourself, are your eyes wide open? Are you still fighting loudly out in the open, governed by pride and the illusion of loyalty? Or are you ready to camouflage your ambition and become the stealth architect?